What's up, y'all? I had some issues with my computer, so I'm going live from my phone for a minute. But you guys are awesome. Gonna get started here. Just give it a second. Follow Rob on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. All right, here we go. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. We'll talk about some more SEC offenses in a moment, but I've got the 10 toughest non-conference schedules. 10 toughest non-conference schedules. Yes, for the upcoming season. Now, here's the interesting part. We talk about the SEC apologists all the time, and appreciate the folks watching online, including Alan and Kevin. You guys are awesome. As I had to reset my computer, so I started the stream late. So everyone that's watching on the stream is now angry at me. I'm sorry. Just give me a break. My computer was acting silly. All right, calm down. It'll be okay. Anyway, all right. So toughest non-conference schedules in 2021. Let's make sure we put this out there. I did not write this. I did not write this at all. What's up, guys? I didn't write it. All right. But these, according to 247 Sports, are the toughest non-conference schedules of the season. We'll start with Southern Cal at number 10. They've got San Jose State at Notre Dame and versus BYU. You know, San Jose State last season was 7-1. I don't think they can take that that game is, crazy off the charts. But the other game that's interesting, they got to go to Notre Dame, and BYU's pretty tough. Now, here's the other thing, and I want to put this out there because people will get upset with me when I say this. The SEC apologists will tell you, but our SEC schedules are so tough. Okay. You don't know how tough they are until the games have been played. That's kind of the whole gist behind all of this. Number 9 on the list, according to 247 Sports, is the Colorado Buffaloes. They play Northern Colorado. I didn't know there was a Northern Colorado, but okay. Then you got Texas A&M. That game is in Denver. And then you got a game with Minnesota for the Buffaloes there. So that's interesting. Our first SEC team in the mix is Auburn. Now, the interesting part about this schedule is that they've got Akron at home, Alabama State at home, but they go to Penn State, and then they play Georgia State at home. So, yeah, in theory, I guess if you're making a road trip up to Happy Valley, that makes your schedule tough. It really does. That's why they're at number 8. At number 7 on the list, the Oregon Ducks. They play Fresno State. They go to Ohio State, and then they welcome in Stony Brook. I didn't think Stony Brook had a football team. How can I have a sports talk show and not know that Stony Brook didn't have a football team? My bad, Stony Brook. They're at number 7. Stanford, the smart kids. They got Kansas State. They go to Vanderbilt, and then they're at home for Notre Dame. That's pretty tough. Pretty tough. Your first ACC team in the mix. Now, I know that people are going to be like, oh, the Clemson schedule is garbage. Yes, the Clemson schedule is garbage as far as the conference schedule goes. But the non-conference schedule, according to 247 Sports, is the 5th hardest in the country. Clemson plays Georgia and Charlotte, South Carolina State, UConn, and then they're on the road at South Carolina. Don't get upset with me. I didn't write that. I'm in the camp of I think that the Clemson schedule is not that tough, but that's just me. Number 4 on the list goes to the Georgia Bulldogs. And that's because they play Clemson, as well as UAB, Charleston Southern, and they've got Georgia Tech. Let's go out to the phones, and we'll give you the rest of these at 803-978-1832. Out to the phones we go, and welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Rob. This is Bobby and Casey. How are you?
Hey, Bobby, what's up, man? We're talking about strength of schedule here. What you got, man?
But I just got something coming over here. I just sent it to you. As
Sure.
Football News is putting out right now that Dare Rosenthal, who left LSU because of violating policies, is landing in Kentucky. So you put out the Georgia kid who left Georgia for Auburn. I had sent you that off Twitter earlier today, too. That's one transfer within conference. Now this gigantic LSU guy, he should have gone in the NFL draft. Is now with Kentucky.
Kentucky gets
Saturday down south.
Yeah, Kentucky gets stronger and stronger, right?
Yeah, that's correct. But also, you failed to mention, because someone else had brought it up. I believe this Robertson wide receiver, this kid that was at Georgia.
Yeah.
I think he initially signed at Cal or someone else, then transferred to Georgia, then got hurt and left for Auburn.
These kids are all over the place, man. I can't keep up with all of it.
Yeah, but I understand. But he initially, evidently, it's either the injury bug with him or somebody's trying to tell him too much in his ear. And when someone tells him, he just moves. But I mean, if he sticks and stays in one place, and now Georgia's loaded with talent because of Kirby Smart, they can never win the national championship. But if he jumps and doesn't showcase himself in the NFL, the scouts in the front office might get scared on drafting him high.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that works out, man. Yeah, Kentucky gets another recruit. Look at that.
Yeah, they actually, it's a transfer. Essentially, it's just a big prototype offensive tackle to guard your quarterback.
Who doesn't want that, right?
Well, I mean, it is what it is. When you have him, he could probably go both ways, pass block and run block. Which with a dynamite offensive line, and of course, I got to be greedy and selfish. Think about South Carolina when they play on the strip, just going to.
You can make that argument. They've got Chris Rodriguez there too, who is considered one of the top prospects for or top guys to be in the MVP as far as running backs go in the SEC.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, yep.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for joining the show, buddy. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm listening. I'm sorry to cut you off on that, but it was just coming over.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Well,
all right, so yeah, we'll research that as we roll along this afternoon. Kentucky getting a guy that was at LSU, and I remember he had like an interesting story too. I'll check that out as we go. But yeah, that's some interesting stuff there, man. We'll have to see how that shakes out. We are doing the top 10 toughest schedules. Georgia checks in at number 4 with Clemson, UAB, Charleston Southern, and Georgia Tech. The top 3 when we come back right here on the rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. All right, guys. Sorry about that. Let me take this one out of here. There we go. Appreciate y'all checking in today, man. So I just got an email from my wife telling me that a teacher at my daughter's school was arrested for criminal sexual conduct with a minor. Nobody wants to get that email. Who wants that? Wow. And it's arrested right here in Richland County. What a mess. What a gong show this stuff's turning out to be, man. You know what? I believe you, brother. I wish that I had something that I could say that would make more sense here, but I don't. It's happening everywhere. I'm one of those crazy people, though. I'm not going to let the law handle it. If it's my daughter, stand by. Knock you out where you stand. What a gong show stuff's turned into, man. I think we just hear more about it now. You know, I think it's always been there, but I think we just hear more about it now, you know. Oh goodness. These last three schedules are pretty interesting. I think that's this afternoon, Cal. Yes, sir. 4:00, I believe. Here's my protein snack that I will be eating in a little bit. It says it's buffalo wing flavor. I don't even know what the hell that is. We'll have to see how that works out. Buffalo wing. Yay. It's better that he killed himself than us actually taking the time to house him and all that. I don't think you can be cured from that kind of thing, man. I really don't. Welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. God bless my wife emailing me during the show and then texting me the email just to make sure that I get it. And it was actually a very valid email. It was about a teacher at my daughter's school who was arrested for criminal sexual conduct with a minor. Yeah, there's that. You never want to get those emails, especially at work. The wife knows how to get my attention, though. She emails me and then texts me the email, like a screenshot of the email. I guess she thinks, all right, Rob's not going to read my... I do read the email. Most of it. Anyway, not the kind of thing you want to hear about. And it could throw your vibe off. So, like, let's go behind the curtain for just a minute. If you walk into the Fox Sports Radio studio, I come in here about 5 to 10 minutes before the show starts, okay? I'm generally across the hall. I have a nice production studio over there, and I'm putting stuff together that I'm going to talk about here on the radio. And I'm old school in that I print a lot of my stuff out. So when I come in, I lay my stories out like it's a buffet. All right? And I have a flow of which way that I'm going to go with which story. And I color code them because I'm like, all right, I like this story. I like that story, whatever. And then you get an email like that and it just completely throws off your thinking. So not good. Not what you want to hear. Anyway, as we roll along here this afternoon, hopefully you don't get that email and you have to deal with that yourself. Husker football was asked if I did the toughest non-conference schedule yet. No, I'm going to go back through these really quick here. Number 10, for the folks that are out there, Southern Cal with San Jose State, Notre Dame, BYU. Number 9, Northern Colorado with Northern Colorado, Texas A&M, Minnesota. Number 8, Akron, Alabama State, and Penn State and Georgia State for the Auburn Tigers. Stanford's at number 6 with Kansas, Vandy, and Notre Dame. Clemson's at number 5 with what? Georgia. Who else was on the schedule? Oh yeah, Georgia, South Carolina State, and UConn. Number 5 was Georgia. Number 4 was Georgia with Clemson, UAB, Charleston Southern, and Georgia Tech. Number 3, as far as your toughest non-conference schedules, is the Florida State Seminoles. They will play, according to this, Notre Dame, Jacksonville State, Little Deion Sanders action there. UMass and Florida. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. But they get Notre Dame at home and Florida on the road. So, yeah, that's pretty tough. Pretty tough. Number 2 on the list, this is from 247 Sports, by the way, is Georgia Tech. You know, Jeff Collins has that rebuild job going there, and apparently he has the second toughest non-conference schedule in the country. He gets Northern Illinois, Kennesaw State, at Notre Dame, and a home game with Georgia. So I guess it's banking on those last 2 games there. So, yeah, that's interesting. And then number 1, anyone want to take a guess online? Yeah. This one, it didn't really shock me, but I look at it and I'm like, okay. Number 1 goes to the Miami Hurricanes with Alabama at a neutral site, Appalachian State, Michigan State, and CCSU. Yep. I think the App State matchup could be tough. Alabama's obviously a tough game. And CCSU. There are 2 SEC teams on the list of the top 10 with Georgia and who was the other one? Georgia and Auburn. The ACC has, what, 4 of the top 10? And I think a lot of it comes down to, you know, I think a lot of teams don't, especially if they're in the SEC, you see this a lot where they don't really schedule tough games out of conference. But you can also look at it from this perspective. You have to schedule these so far out. You don't know how good these teams are going to be. People seem to forget that. You know, UCLA plays LSU at the beginning of the season. LSU is going there. That is a tough out. I don't care who you are. Going across the country, you have to travel across the country to play a Pac-12 team. That's tough. I thought LSU should have been in the mix there, and I got to look at the rest of their non-conference schedule. It may be hot dog water. I agree with Miami at number 1, though, with the game with Alabama, Appalachian State, and Michigan State. That's 3 tough non-conference games. So at the end of the season, when we evaluate Miami, if Miami goes 8-4, that's the equivalent of, if you're playing a much lighter schedule, going 10-2. Blake says Mississippi State has at NC State, at Memphis, and at Louisiana Tech. Yeah, I can buy that. Husker Football says he knows Nebraska has one of the hardest schedules overall. Sea-Dog Online, yes, Georgia Tech finished second in this list. And this is from 247 Sports. And I like to look at some of these, and we're going to put this, by the way, on the bookcase of accountability. The bookcase of accountability. Right across over here next to me. And we'll look at the end of the season in November to see who really has that the toughest non-conference schedule. Because what was it last year? Did Louisiana Tech beat Louisiana beat Iowa State, something like that, at the beginning of the season? Then went on to have a great year. Yeah, things like that happen. And schedules that look kind of crummy end up looking a heck of a lot tougher. All right, 803-978-1832. If you want to respond to that as far as the toughest non-conference schedule. Toughest non-conference schedule. Number 1 overall goes to Miami. Clemson's at number 5. Georgia Tech at 2. Auburn's at 8. Georgia's at 4. Blake says the bookcase of accountability, please include all the preseason magazines. Brother, I got all this stuff printed out. Phil Steele's top 25, all of that. I'm not mocking Phil Steele. What we're going to do is we're going to look at it. We're going to determine who was actually closer. And then next season, when we have all of this stuff come out, it's going to be, hey, these people were the closest last year. That's who we'll evaluate. And I know people are going to be like, sometimes some people miss. The people that miss are the people that write with slants. slants toward the Big Ten, slants toward the Big 12. You have writers that do that across the country. And a lot of that they do to, get the folks from around that region to buy or click or whatever. But the reality is that I want what's real. I want what you truly think, not something that's dressed up so that the Homer folks can say, you know what, I'm going to buy that magazine because they said that my team was going to be all right. No. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. That's the way that it should be. That's why it's so interesting sometimes. People, I try to be as honest as I can here with what I think about teams on the radio. Some people don't do that. They're afraid of offending someone in the press box. The old press box super friends. Let's all get along in the press box because we all went to the same university that we're now covering. No, you don't have any of that crap with me. I'm just going to be honest with you. And you know what? I don't care about those guys. Those guys can all go to hell as far as I'm concerned. And I mean that. I'd rather be just honest. Be honest with what you think. That goes a lot longer than some of this other stuff that's just thrown out there. And they expect you to believe it and be a stupid college football fan. We're trying to eradicate that here on the rundown. More in a moment. I got to research on that. I read something about him the other day, Husker. I'll look at that and I'll tweet out about it later. I'm at Rob Sounds Good on Twitter. I don't have my notes on that. I did find something about that. He might come back this year. We'll see. I agree with C-Dog. Your schedule is brutal. But, Georgia Tech typically schedules a tough game, out of conference anyway. Randall is correct. The huge game for LSU going west. You know what? I complain about athletic directors scheduling Power 5 games. Scheduling a game where you go on the West Coast, that is tough, brother. I don't care what anybody says. The whole idea of flying across country, it affects your body's chemistry. I believe that. If you don't believe me, do a cross-country trip. It'll take something out of you. But you know what? You mentioned Jackpot there, Blake, about cheering. If I took Jackpot to a game and we're in the press box together and he's dressed, and I'll give him the rules up front. You got to be honest. You got to, do it the old school way. Wear a pair of slacks and a polo shirt. Maybe that's why I don't go to a lot of games anymore. I can't stand these people that think that, you have to, what's the term? Bend the knee to the university. No, I don't. I'm here to cover them. I don't care. It's ridiculous. I follow Clemson, but you know what? If there's a story on Clemson, I will break it in a second. Because that's what I'm supposed to do. 803-978-1832. Courtney online with a great comment. We were talking about UCLA and LSU playing at the beginning of the season. LSU going across the country to play at UCLA at the beginning of the season. Woof. But Courtney has a good question. Says she'd like to see my Gamecocks go play a few of those West Coast teams, and I'd like to see them come to Willie B. Yeah, there's matchups you'd like to see. Who wouldn't like to see South Carolina and Southern Cal, the battle of the USCs? That'd be great. Who wouldn't want to see that? I could get involved in that. Really could. You can also get into the mix of seeing other West Coast teams come out here. Wouldn't it be great to see Boise State come out and play? Have Boise State come play Coastal Carolina with the way that program's turned around under Jamie Chadwell. That'd be great. Remember the matchup we had last year with BYU and Coastal? And it was like they had College Game Day there, and it really was the biggest game of the weekend. That's how you get Power 5 or G5 teams to be more valid, in my opinion. You make it where the games that they play are valid, are absolutely valid. I think that's just the way to go. So we'll take your calls on questions too at 803-978-1832. 1832. Husker football says Nebraska has OU, Ohio State, Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Northwestern, Michigan State, and then Buffalo and Fordham and Purdue. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not knocking their schedule, but we're talking about the non-conference schedules today, which are tough to evaluate at this point in the season. Allen says UGA played 2 with Boise State. Yeah, and Boise State won one of them. So there's that. I'm not saying Boise State belongs, but I'm saying teams like that can compete. San Jose State, you could probably throw them in the mix. And there's other games that make sense too. I remember TCU played Clemson a couple of years ago. So there's that in the mix too. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you want to join us here on the rundown this afternoon. You know, let me grab my other notes here. I gave you the toughest non-conference schedules. I was looking at this online today too, and it was stuff about the offenses for the SEC this year. And some of the things that were in the mix there. You know, and one of them was, will any team dare roll out a 2-quarterback system? That's something to think about. I kind of like that. I kind of like the idea of having 2 quarterbacks. You got to play for them both. It's one thing to think about there. Let's see here. One of the other ones that was in this list. It talked about how contested the race will be for the first team All-SEC running back. So they list 7 that have potential. Tank Bigsby, Kevin Harris, Isaiah Spiller, Chris Rodriguez from Kentucky, Jerrion Ely, Zamir White, and Brian Robinson all have a case to be made for that preseason first-team All-SEC spot. And there's other breakout guys that are in the mix too. Devon Achaney, James Cook, Kavasier Smoke, Trelon Smith. The SEC this year, there are a ton of great running backs. With that, though, I stand by what I said earlier this week. I think South Carolina has the potential to have the best running back room in the country. I still stand behind that. Of course, with Marshawn Lloyd and Kevin Harris. And I think the only thing that's keeping Kevin Harris this season from being a guy that'll be talked about in that first breath of great running backs is that they're going to have to give some carries to Marshawn Lloyd. And that's nothing against Kevin Harris, but you've got Marshawn Lloyd there. He didn't come to South Carolina to sit. He didn't do that. I firmly believe that. Highly touted prospect. We'll see what happens. 803-978-1832. Teams that have canceled home and home games with UGA, according to Allen, Ohio State and Oregon. Cal says Clemson continues to play. SEC powers Auburn, A&M, UGA, LSU's coming up soon too. And Ron with a good line. Can South Carolina's line hold up? I don't know. That's kind of the big thing. But you know, my big thing with that is that Kevin Harris did it last year with that Gamecock offensive line that wasn't really a lot to write home about. And they had a quarterback that I read one of the lists. It was like Luke Doty only attempted, I think it was 2 passes that went over 12 yards. So, yeah, Kevin Harris still did that. So interesting when you really stop and think about the season that he had. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. It also talked about who will have the SEC's best offenses. And I thought that was interesting. I think that not really the dark horse, but you got to look at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to be like a CFL team, man. Can you hold them under, you know, if their defense can hold you under 40 points, they're going to win some games. They're going to win some games. They may win games 45-40. I think that they are one of the more fascinating teams because of the fact that Lane Kiffin knows how to coach offense, and they can put up some points. So there's that. Lost Aggies Online says A&M might go with both King and Calzada at times at quarterback. You know how hard that is to plan for, especially if you've got one that, you know, both of them can make passes, but one of them can really make plays with his feet. Derek asked why nobody's talking about the best college football in Alabama. I mean, what do you want, man? Alabama's, according to this, may have one of the best offenses in the SEC, and they lost, 3 of the top 5 guys that were in the Heisman race? Just saying. There's that. But I like Lane Kiffin and what he does on offense, and I don't know if he'll be able to sustain a program, but I am confident in his ability to put a good offensive team out on the field. I really, really am. And it's going to be interesting to see if this is going to be something that carries over in the SEC. And then you got Mississippi State, too, with the Pirate, who puts out a great offense, too. The Egg Bowl this year, with everybody there, is going to be much watched television. You know, on Thanksgiving night, everybody's gotten that whatever it is, the thing, the tryptophan, I think is what it's called, that makes you sleepy when you have your turkey. Now go out and run around the yard a little bit, rake some leaves, and come back for the Egg Bowl, because that might be a point a minute. It might. Tomorrow on the rundown, we'll have more for you. All kinds of good stuff planned for tomorrow. We talked a little bit today about Sha'Carri Richardson. We'll get back into that tomorrow. Of course, she's the Olympian that was kicked off the team, given a 1-year ban or 1-month ban because she tested positive for pot, and now she can't run in the Olympics. Ran the 6th fastest 100-meter time in women's history. No, thank you. You smoked pot, you don't get to go to the Olympics. Very interesting story there. America's team, the Phoenix Suns, tonight looks to jump out to a 2-0 lead over the Milwaukee Bucks. Set your TVs tonight for that. Husker football has my thing with that too. Maybe she shouldn't break the law. You're exactly right. She knew what she was putting in her body beforehand. You know that you're going to get tested as an Olympic athlete. Kind of hard for me to feel bad for you. It really, really is. By the way, up next, Lawton Swan, Clemson Sports Talk, the czar of Clemson Sports.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
Yes, we love the Swan. Be sure to check him out. He'll be on with you from 4 to 6. He'll have all kinds of good information for you about Clemson and everything else. It says Clemson on the marquee, but a great, great show. Be sure to check out Lawton Swan. My name is Rob Sanders. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. We will see you tomorrow here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Jackpot had to travel for his new partner's job, so we will be back on the air Sunday. That's our next Rob and Kale show will be Sunday. Thank you for that, Blake. So, good stuff. You guys have a great day, man. Appreciate you checking us out. Every day at 3. Thank you, guys.